Good morning and happy Monday, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining today. The market's still powering up, and we're set to have a huge week. The market's very close to all-time highs. Apple is just under the $3 trillion market valuation. And then on top of that, we have the FOMC press conference on Wednesday. So we're definitely set for a big week. Let us know what stocks you're watching. We'll probably take a look at them. But Tom, what do you have your eyes on this morning?
This morning, I'm actually keeping my eyes on Lucid Motors, Mike. They're actually taking a pretty big rise, or they're actually exploding quite a bit in pre-market compared to a lot of other stocks I'm seeing. And, while we have Apple continuing to power up, I'm really glad to see Lucid starting to get back up. I know that Lucid's been on a pretty bad pullback here over the past couple of weeks. And, lots of traders have been pretty upset with the lackluster movement. And I'm really glad to see them breaking out up above this $38 resistance. I think that shows that they might have a lot of strength come this week. And I'm just really glad to see them popping. They haven't had too much huge news or anything that I'm seeing. But in the end, I'm just really glad to see them bouncing off this support. And it might make for some awesome technical plays today.
For sure, and I don't know if you saw it, Tom, but they actually got added to the NASDAQ, so that's pretty big. I know there was like a whole NASDAQ, I guess you could say an adjustment recently. Basically, a couple companies got added, a couple companies got the boot, but Lucid was actually one of them that got added.
Yeah, that's actually really good news. I remember actually seeing that now in the Discord, now that you brought it up, and I heard that they also won like Motor Trend's Truck of the Year, which is great to hear as well. I know that the Lucid Air won Car of the Year, and it's really crazy that they're coming in with these cars and trucks just winning these awards out of nowhere like this, but it's really good for their stock. I'm glad to see it, and with the way it's moving in pre-market, Mike, like if we're able to bounce and break up above like $41 today, it would be really nice, and we're getting pretty close to that 1,000 SMA, and we're also bouncing off a couple of the smaller SMAs this morning as well.
For sure, and I saw that Motor Trend for 2022 named the Rivian the Truck of the Year. And speaking of Rivian, how's that one looking?
Yeah, RIVN. Let's check them out. Yeah, that's actually really nice. So that's the news I saw, that it's the Rivian truck that got named Truck of the Year, and it's actually doing pretty well. But I'll be honest, I think Lucid's doing a little bit better in pre-market. But hey, I'm glad to see Rivian moving up as well. Hopefully they move up together. I think that they could possibly have some sympathy plays here.
For sure. And then we have Matt saying Rivian won Truck of the Year. Yep. All right. So let's see. I just want to welcome everyone to the stream really quickly. The market's about to open. So welcome George, Matt, Rick, Dennis, Bill, Hunter, Vicky, and Mike. Thank you guys so much for joining. And with that being said, like I said, the market is about to open right now. Peloton is on my radar. Apple's on my radar. They're very close to that $3 trillion market valuation. But Peloton's looking pretty good in my opinion.
Wow.
I mean, it's up, 3%, Tom? And we're getting pretty close to a breakout, right about that like $40 resistance.
Yeah, there's going to be a nice resistance there at $40, and it looks like it's in a bit of like a head and shoulders pattern here, Mike. Like there's a pretty nice shoulder level here right at $39, and man, as long as we hold that support today, I think this could make for a pretty nice recovery move, and I really like it, Mike. It's bouncing right on support. Like I said, if that holds up and we're able to break 40, that could make for an awesome momentum play if you guys throw this one on the radar and just wait for it to break.
You know it. So heading into open, I would say most stocks on my watch list are definitely in the red. Peloton's popping up there, and the SPY itself is in the red a little bit. Apple is, Tom, I mean, it honestly kind of looks like it's going to be a little bit of a tough day, at least as of right now. It looks like we're seeing a little bit of selling pressure, at least at open. But I guess the market has been on a pretty rapid uptrend.
Yeah, it has, and hopefully it gets back up there. I see Apple kind of trying to come back now on the 5-minute candles, but like you said, most of my watch list is red as well. Unfortunately, it seems like another bad day for the growth stocks, Mike. Like, of course, we have a couple like Lucid and a few others going up, but man, I have AI in the red. I have BABA in the red again. Some of the airlines, NIO's down 2.6%. It's definitely not a good day so far for the growth stocks again. And we're seeing the value stocks though, like KO, do very well. Stocks like Facebook are kind of doing decent with Apple, but man, it's good to see the value stocks doing good. But I was really hoping to see some growth stock action this week again, kind of like what we saw a couple weeks ago whenever DraftKings and some of those plays started really popping, but it looks like they're all kind of pulling back again today.
You know it. And then we have Hunter mentioning ARNA. This stock is up 85% today, Tom. It's exploding. I was actually reading the news on this one this morning. They are being acquired by Pfizer for $6.7 billion in cash. And that comes out to like right around $100 a share. And yeah, they're exploding up. Pfizer set to acquire them. And I believe that ARNA is like very advanced when it comes to, I want to say like inflammatory diseases or something like that, and it should be a pretty big asset to Pfizer. That's the news I read, so it's exploding up, and it's definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah, definitely. That's a crazy jump, Mike. Like they were at like $50 a share on Friday, and they almost opened up around $100 this morning. Talk about a rise up 84%. That's insane. And talking about Pfizer, they are actually exploding this morning. I remember in last night's video, Mike, I was really loving the setup here on Pfizer, and they had a very good confirmation off of this 5290 support here. Once they actually broke it, they broke this resistance, and they were kind of triple topping there right around $52.90 to $53. They broke it and then confirmed off of it in pre-market, and now they're actually breaking up above their pre-market high. And Pfizer's actually doing very well considering what the overall market's doing, and I'm really glad to see him popping. I know they've had some good news lately with their vaccines. Like I know Sunday, Israel actually did a study and found that their vaccine stops the new Omicron variant, or it protects against it. So that's definitely good news for Pfizer. And this is actually a really good acquisition, Mike. And I can't believe they're doing it for straight cash. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, Pfizer is a powerhouse, though, but I definitely know what you mean. And looking back at ARNA, I just want to cover two things really quickly. The first thing is, I have to look at the options. So some of these call options on ARNA are up 168,000% in a day. So that comes out to the 75 strike calls for December 17th. We're trading at $1 per option on Friday, and now they're trading for like almost 1,700, which is insane to think about, but nobody could have predicted a move like this. And then the second thing I wanted to talk about was a strategy that is used by hedge funds a decent amount, and a lot of people are looking at ARNA right now, and they're thinking, all right, well, the move already happened, there's no play here. But actually there is potential for a decent opportunity, and that is, I don't want to say like a merger arbitrage strategy, because it's not an arbitrage strategy, but basically we could see that ARNA, Thinkorswim News is saying that they are set to be bought out at $100 a share. Right now they're trading at $92 a share. So if you wanted to, if you really, really think that this deal between ARNA and Pfizer will go through, what you can do is you could buy shares of ARNA at, let's say, $92. If the deal does go through, you will be bought out by Pfizer for $100 a share. So if you're in at 92 and then you get bought out at 100, so let me just do the return on investment real quick. So you get like an 8.6% return from now to the time that the deal closes. So I just want to point that out. Like it's a pretty decent return if we're being honest. But then again, if the deal doesn't go through, the stock might tank down to like 65 or maybe even lower.
Yeah, and I remember this happened with DraftKings and Entain, Mike. And I remember people were talking about doing a possible deal like that, especially like in the foreign markets and different stuff like that. And it was pretty crazy that deal ended up not going through. And, that's just the main scare, is if the deal doesn't go through. And, obviously like right now we're seeing some pretty good talks, and hopefully this one goes through. I think there's a pretty big chance of it, given everything that I'm reading so far. I'm definitely seeing some pretty good, some good articles about it. So hopefully it goes through, but that's definitely an interesting strategy, Mike. And I know that it's kind of more advanced, but in the end though, it's definitely interesting. And if they can get those shares, like obviously, like if the deal goes through and then they do get bought out for 100, keep in mind that you're going to make however much it's down. So if it's at $90, you'll make $10 a share, on whenever they buy you out for 100. So definitely a pretty good deal, Mike, and very interesting, but definitely something that is probably pretty rare.
Yeah, for sure. All right, good stuff. I'm just doing a quick scan. It looks like Facebook's popping up there, Tom.
Yeah, hopefully they're coming back. I mean, man, I've been waiting for them to pop for a while, and they've been really consolidating over the past few trading days, Mike. Like we can see that their stock has pretty much been staying between like 335 and 327 pretty much down here at the bottom. And hopefully we can start to get back to the upside. I've been waiting for them with all the metaverse news and everything like that. And I'm really excited to see how this stock moves over the next few months. And, I know they had a lot of issues and stuff before the metaverse announcements, but I really hope that we start to see this come out over the next couple of years. And I know that they actually like launched it last week. That was very interesting to see them start to launch the platform, but in the end, it's not getting a lot of attention yet.
Yep, true that. Tom, it looks like a little bit of a different day so far. We have, I don't want to say, I guess you could say some notable or like some popular stocks down, like Nvidia's down, DraftKings is down, Microsoft's down. But then on the other hand, we have companies like Chewy popping up, Teladoc's popping up, even Zoom's in the green today finally. So it's like, I just think it's interesting how, some of these, I guess you could say like very popular stocks over like the past couple of months or maybe pulling back a little bit while we're starting to see some of these other companies like Zoom and Teladoc maybe start to show some early signs of an uptrend.
Yeah, definitely. And we kind of talked about that in Sunday's video. There's a lot of stocks doing very well right now, like Apple. Nvidia was doing well. We have Microsoft up there as well. And as these stocks are around their all-time highs, they're probably going to come down and start to break some pretty major supports. Like in Nvidia's case, they're kind of having a nice head and shoulders pattern up here at the top. And it looks like they could definitely come down and start to dip over the next couple of weeks. Same thing with AMD. Of course, lots of people love these two companies, but man, like as these companies start to fall though, I think it's going to create an awesome opportunity because a lot of these investors, I feel like, are going to start taking profits on these stocks that are at highs like Apple, AMD, Nvidia, Microsoft, like you name it. I think that eventually we're going to see a bit of a transition out of those stocks and possibly into some of these lower price growth stocks, like you mentioned, Mike, with Zoom, Teladoc, a lot of these COVID plays that just haven't played out yet. I think that they have a lot of potential. And man, whenever this transition starts, I can't wait for it because, it'll happen pretty fast. Like we've seen it happen a lot in the past too. Like whenever DraftKings and all these stocks like that were going up in the beginning, keep in mind that's whenever the market was pretty volatile during COVID. So, it's just the market's definitely crazy, and I just cannot wait to see that transition. And I feel like that the FOMC press conference might make a pretty big impact in that, Mike, because lots of people have been saying that if rates go up, that could make some of these major tech stocks start to have some pretty big pullbacks. And I think that's a pretty realistic scenario. Like I know people talk about that as the rates rise, of course, it's harder to borrow, harder to, keep these stocks up here at these higher levels. And I think that that's definitely going to make a big impact if we start to see the Fed indicate that rates are going to be rising sooner than expected. And I think that they might start to indicate that now that the inflation numbers are getting to be the highest levels in like 28 years and different numbers like that.
No doubt. It's definitely an interesting time. And then we have Muscle saying, good morning. Rivian is up. What's up with Rivian? Do they have any substantial revenue yet? So from what I heard, that they are definitely increasing their revenue, but they do have earnings very soon. So when they report earnings, we'll get a much clearer picture of what's going on with them. They actually have earnings this week on December 16th after market close. So we'll definitely have a lot more information with them, but they definitely have potential. It's just they have a lot of work to do to back up that valuation. But like we talked about earlier in the stream, their truck got the Motor Trend Truck of the Year, which is awesome to see. But there's a lot going on with this one.
Yeah, that's actually some really good news. I'm trying to see if I can find like an article here on CNBC for it, and here it is. So here's the truck. You can see it with the Motor Trend Award right next to it right there. It's pretty interesting. I can't believe that they won Truck of the Year like that. That should definitely help them out as a company. And, I've been hearing lots of great things about their truck and their vehicles, of course. But, man, the main thing is that truck. And like you said, Mike, their earnings are coming out pretty soon. And it's actually going to be, I think, a very interesting report because in the end, we just have to realize that they just started selling these things. So the numbers might not be as good as we're expecting, right off the bat. And if they're not keeping up, like with the production, like obviously if they have like 40,000 pre-orders, let's say, and they're only able to output, 10,000 trucks a month, or they're coming in short of their expectations as far as that goes, that could be an issue for them as well. And, there's been lots of like chip problems and different production delays going on with other companies like Ford, GM, even Tesla's had a little bit. And, I feel like that could definitely spill into Rivian. So those earnings are going to be very interesting, Mike. And, everyone's been talking about this company having crazy valuations and stuff, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they back it up.
No doubt. All right, good stuff there. I'm just doing a quick scan to see what else we have moving. I mean, Rivian's up 4.5% today, so it looks like we might be seeing a little bit of a pre-earnings run-up, so that's good to see. And at the same time, we also have Lucid having a pretty good day, and they're up 5.5%, believe it or not.
Yeah, Lucid's doing really good as well, and I was expecting them to maybe start to pop back up here at market open, but they're actually just kind of lingering around down here. Like we said, they got added to the NASDAQ, which was a pretty awesome thing to see, and I hope that really helps their company here. And they've been on a pretty bad downtrend. Like whenever we look at them on the 1-year daily chart, Mike, they were just at $60 a share almost just a couple weeks ago, and this pullback has been pretty drastic to say the least, but so was the move to the upside. The one thing I am worried about, Mike, is it looks like Lucid actually posted some lower highs on the daily chart, and I'm wondering if that'll make them, go on like maybe a longer term downtrend here for the next couple of weeks, or maybe until like the beginning of the new year.
We shall see. All right, and then we have George mentioning MMAT. Let's take a look at it. MMAT up 11% today. There we go. It's popping up intraday. Tom, this doesn't look bad for a momentum play. IV's low and it's like starting to trend up there. Not gonna lie, like, it's definitely a risky setup. Don't get me wrong. Very, very risky. Like a penny stock, it's very risky. IV, but I am tempted to get like one, like, or maybe a couple just like YOLO call options where if it does pop up, not only will the option explode because of the stock, but also the IV historically runs up when this one rises. So I'm really tempted, but like I said, it would be a complete gamble.
Yeah, this one's going to be really crazy, Mike. Like we always talk about the IV being high on a lot of stocks, and man, this one's pretty high at 157%. Definitely going to be risky, but hey, it's starting to break out, and if it keeps running, who knows? These options could start to explode. And do they have some good news or something? I'm not even seeing anything on the Thinkorswim news tab here, but it looks like their stock's moving pretty drastically. Like I would have expected to see something off of this, but wow, either way, great recovery for them. And on the daily chart, it looks like they were bouncing right around a support, like right around $2.85 or $2.80, somewhere like right around there on the daily. Seems like a pretty big bottom support level. And hey, it looks pretty decent actually. So like you said, it could definitely be a pretty good gamble play, especially if that IV starts to pop up like it did the past couple times.
For sure. All right, and then we have Kathy saying AI went positive. It seems to get to 34 and go down. If it bounces above it, do you think this will be a good play? Yes, I do. Mainly for the long term, but even for the short term, I think it should be good. But there are some more resistance levels besides 34. Like there's like actually a good amount of resistance overhead. I would say we have a pretty big level right at like 37, and even at even at 38, and then again another huge one at 40. So I definitely like it, Kathy, but there is a lot of resistance overhead. I really, really like it for the long term.
Yeah, me too. I really love it for the long term, but in the short term, like you said, it's probably going to go all over the place. There's a lot of different levels that this one's been bouncing off of, like Mike said. Like you have a pretty big support down here at like 27.50, then 35, like he said. The big one I think is going to be $40. That one's been pretty big, and it kind of bounced in there in pre-market on Friday as well. So I'm definitely going to be eyeing up $40 today, but I'm really hoping to see a nice uptrend with this one. It had that big move in pre-market the other day, so it probably isn't showing up on the daily chart too well, but I really like that move, and I hope that this support, like this intraday support today around 32.50 ends up holding up, because man, AI has been doing pretty good over the past week, Mike, and they've been on a pretty bad downtrend, but I'm really hoping this stock recovers up, and they're in a great sector for the long term. And I feel like their growth can be pretty good. And I actually picked up some shares down here, and I think shares are just the smarter way to go. Obviously, you can get leaps and stuff like that, but the IV is a little bit high, of course, and it'll have to explode pretty high for those options to explode. So I would recommend getting shares. And keep in mind, it's been on a bad downtrend. We don't know how long it's going to continue on this trend for, but I would definitely expect it to turn around pretty soon.
Exactly, and we can't forget about that $500 million Department of Defense deal that they got. What was it, on Thursday, I believe? Yeah, Thursday of last week. So that really helped them rise, at least temporarily. But I think they'll be pretty good. And then we have Muscle saying, do you think folks take profit this time of year, or do you think the market is adjusting to dollar cost averaging tactics? It looks as if the profit taking for Nvidia and AMD. So historically speaking, December is a pretty good month for the stock market. I made a video on, what was it? Yeah, I think I made a video on Saturday. It might have been Friday. I believe it's Saturday, about the historical returns of just December and like even around Christmas time. Feel free to check it out on the main channel. It's like how Christmas affects stocks or something like that.
It was definitely Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday. So either way, in that video, basically I go over how usually December is a pretty good month for stocks, and there's a couple theories behind like why December is a pretty good month. But feel free to check that out for all the information. But either way, in regards to Nvidia and AMD, they are definitely seeing some profit taking. But then again, like they've been like two of like the best companies in the market over like the past year, and then even over like the past couple of years, and even over the past month. Like AMD in the past, like even like in the short term, right? Even over like the past 6 months, AMD went from 72 to 164. So they over doubled in price, which is insane for a huge company like AMD. And then Nvidia, they went from 115 to 346. So it's like, well, like this is only over like the past 6 to 8 months, and like these are like already huge companies. So yes, they are seeing some profit taking, but at the end of the day, they just had some insane growth.
Yeah, exactly. And whenever you have growth that's that crazy to the upside, especially like on the max weekly charts, you can see that some of these percentages to the upside are just astronomical. Like if we just go back to the beginning of 2019, like in Nvidia's case, and we just go to the upside here, all the way to where we're at now is like a 400% increase. If we go to stocks like AMD at like the beginning of like 2019, beginning somewhere like pretty close to there, it's like a 600% increase. So it's just crazy to see how these stocks have been growing. And the big thing is like Mike's pointing out, this is almost expected because the movement has been so astronomical to the upside that you just have to look for these pullbacks eventually. And even though they're pulling back, it is hurting their valuation, of course, in the short term. But keep in mind, the company is still doing very, very well. And even though they're pulling back, like keep in mind that they're probably not even worried about it. Like AMD and Nvidia, they probably understand that the market's going to come down a little bit here and people are going to take profits at some point. And I really hope that we see the transition out of these and into the growth stocks, because that's the main thing I'm waiting for, Mike. But really with these stocks, I think as far as like generating a play and like looking at certain levels for like the next few months, I'm really eyeing up this bottom support level with AMD, Mike. Like we can look over the past 180 days on the 1 hour chart. There's a huge support down here right around like 134. And if we're able to fall back below that, I feel like we might be able to come back down and retouch like 120 or possibly like 125, somewhere close to there. But I'm really watching this 134 support. If we break that, I think we could have a pretty exponential move to the downside, at least in the short term. AMD will probably be back up within the next 3 to 6 months. But in the short term, I think if we break this support, it could go down pretty drastically. Same thing with Nvidia. If we go look at NVDA, they're right around support as well. And if they're able to fall below their 280 support, I think we could also see a pretty big sell-off from them.
Yeah, and if you're holding shares of either of these companies and you kind of want to like hedge yourself or something like that, you could always do like covered calls in times of when there's profit taking, or even if you wanted to, you could do like a put spread or like puts in general. But I think covered calls would probably be the way to go. So definitely keep that in mind. And then we have Ironical saying next support for Bitcoin. All right, so Tom, you want to pull up the Bitcoin chart, and then we could definitely take a look at it. But yeah, I've heard Bitcoin's been kind of all over the place lately. I know it's been pulling back, and it's been looking a little bit rough, but then again, like, it has been running up quite a bit.
Yeah, it's been looking pretty rough the past couple of days, but like you said, it was on a pretty crazy uptrend in its own right. Like it bounced off the 30,000 support and pretty much went straight up towards 68,000 to 70K. So I think it was a pretty good uptrend, and it is pulling back now, of course, and I feel like it's kind of pulling back, and it's pretty funny to me, Mike, that we're starting to see Bitcoin fall, AMD fall, Nvidia fall. Like some of those huge hyped up plays are starting to go down now, and it seems like Bitcoin's kind of just thrown into the hype, it seems like. And I just feel like it's moving more with a lot of other things, but there's definitely a big support somewhere really close to like 48,000 to 50,000. There's a huge support right here. You can see I have the green line. It's bounced a lot off of the green line itself, but it's also bounced a lot off of like 48,000. So definitely eye up both of those levels. I feel like with the way it's looking right now, personally, I feel like it might keep falling through here and keep going down in the short term, but I'm really hoping for a turnaround though. But definitely watch those supports. I'm definitely seeing one around 48,000, but it's hard to say with Bitcoin because it's so high priced that you got to give or take like 1,000 here or there.
Yep. All right, and then we have Cornish saying any levels on Boeing. I'm thinking puts for a swing. Let's take a look. Boeing is down 2.5%. That $200 support is going to be huge. Boeing's been struggling so much lately, but yeah, I mean, I would say the 200 support. Tom, do you see like anything under 200 or anything besides 200?
200 is definitely going to be huge, especially today. And I really like how 200 lined up from like last Monday. I think that was a really good price point if you want to go back and look at it from last Monday at 200. So hopefully 200 holds up. I'm definitely seeing one below it also at like 195 and then at 190 below that. But I think 200 is going to be the main level. And if you just give or take a couple dollars, it might be good. But he's right. I mean, it is going down pretty drastically today, Mike. We're down 2.6%. Going down, yeah, actually, we're starting to fall off pretty hard here. So it's definitely worrisome to me. I'm definitely looking at it to the downside in the short term, but I'm not going to grab puts or anything. I'm honestly just more of waiting for a good opportunity maybe to sell some puts or maybe get some shares for the longer term.
There we go. And then we have Mike saying Costco has done very well for me for the past 2 years, but it's up so high, I don't know when I should get more shares. So looking at Costco, I mean, this stock has been exploding. So over the past 2 years, they had lows of like $261 back in like the crash of 2020, and now they're at $561. So they are really exploding. But I know what you mean. And if you think about it, like, I don't want to compare like Costco to like Apple or AMD or anything like that. But if you think about it, like the same people who bought AMD at, let's say, $36 in the crash of 2020, when the stock went up to 83 or 84, they were probably still wishing like, oh, I wish I bought more shares, or like I'm waiting to buy more shares, but it's up so high now, I might just wait until it gets back down to like 50. And the problem is that it never got that low again. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is that over the long term, your best bet is most likely just to dollar cost average, because sometimes stocks don't slow down. So yeah, I mean, I would just say like over the long term, your best bet is probably to just dollar cost average. Maybe if you feel that it is very overbought right now, maybe instead of like dollar cost averaging with like, I don't know, maybe 10% of your total intended position, maybe you only dollar cost average with like 3% of your total intended position.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really smart way to do it. And if you just do it that way, like Mike said, you won't miss a lot of these uptrends. Like exactly like Mike said, you can go look at these other stocks like AMD, and like he said, you buy a stock Like the people who owned it at 30 probably wish they would have bought it still at 20, and the people who owned it at 80 wish they would have bought it at 40. And it's not ever going to get back there, or in its case, it hasn't. And it's definitely a good thing to think about, because if you don't average in, you're gonna miss the boat quite a bit. I've definitely seen it happen. I've been trading for, what is it? We're going on like 8 or 9 years now. I think 8. And looking at it, it's crazy to see how many of opportunities have went by. Like you can see like AMD, for example. Like, man, if I would have held my AMD shares from when I first started, Mike, I might have like 500 grand in just AMD right now. Like it's crazy to see how some of these stocks go up over time. And just don't miss the boat. If as long as you have the right mindset and you're going in for the longer term, it's always a good time to average in, as long as it's a good company. And Costco is definitely one of those good companies that I think is, you can always have some good confidence in them. Of course, they might pull back, 10, 20% here or there, but they'll generally do pretty well year over year.
Yep. Alrighty. And then we have Muscle saying, thanks, Mike and Tom, for all your content and analysis. Nice work. Excited for the end of the year and the new year. There we go. So thank you so much for joining, Muscle, and thank you so much for that awesome comment. And then Muscle also said, good call on Costco. I'm a buyer every chance I get. Good stock to own for the long term, and could save stock in my opinion. So yeah, it's a pretty solid company. They're consistently growing, and they also pay a dividend, which is pretty good to see. So awesome stuff there. And then Ironical mentioned Workhorse being up 3%. So let's take a look. Workhorse. Yeah, this one is definitely popping up today. It's up like 4%. I haven't been following them too much ever since they had that news. I think it was like the SEC was investigating them or something like that. They've been brutal lately. Like, Tom, I remember in 2020, this stock would just, I don't want to say rise every single day, but it was like so explosive to the upside. And then like right around like February of 2021, like all of the momentum just got killed.
Yeah, it did. Remember, this was supposed to be the next Tesla, Mike. Like, what happened? It got destroyed there for a while. And man, I know they had some pretty bad stuff coming out, but in the end, I didn't expect him to go down this much. And I know what Cornish is going to say about a good old donkey horse here, but man, it's definitely around that $5 support, which is pretty good to see. But man, it's just, this poor company's been getting destroyed. I'm glad Cornish got away from this one, at least for those couple months there.
Yeah, it's been brutal, but with the high risk comes high reward. I mean, it's at $5 now. I remember people last year when it was at 42, like they were giving that crazy price targets. So crazy stuff.
Yeah, it is. I honestly can't believe it fell down this much. Like, I remember, Mike, I have a look at all my drawings from back whenever it was rising. I remember this stock was so hyped up. Like, people were seriously saying it was like the next Tesla and stuff. And, this just goes to show, guys, like, whenever you're hearing the hype about some of these companies, especially these EV companies, you got to be careful. Like, I know Nikola had some issues. Workhorse is having some issues now. Just be careful. We have a lot of other stocks like Lucid. We have Rivian. I know those two companies are definitely better than Workhorse, but just keep in mind, we have to be a little bit wary of some of these companies, because look at the way some of them have went.
Exactly. All right, and then we have Johnny Leverage saying thoughts on AFRM and Unity for shares. So I like them both. I mean, they're not my favorite setups in the market. Like, you guys know I love DraftKings the most, but I do like both of these companies. They definitely are pretty innovative, and they're pretty solid companies for the most part. But then again, they have their own risks to them. But long story short, I do like them.
Yeah, AFRM I think will be pretty decent. That one's a little bit riskier to me than Unity. I think Unity might be a little bit safer with everything that we've been seeing with like the metaverse and all that stuff, but they've actually been on a pretty bad downtrend the past couple months, Mike. And it's honestly creating a pretty good price point down here. If you're looking at them for the long term, they've almost actually have their price, believe it or not. If they fall down just like if they have a couple more red days and they end up around 105 down here, they'll have fallen 50%. That's a pretty good discount, actually.
True. All right, and then we have Ravi saying looking to buy calls on Fastly for the January expiration. Good move? Question mark. Let's take a look. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's a pretty good move. I mean, I wouldn't call it safe, but I would say it's a pretty good setup.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty good. It's not my favorite stock in the world, but hey, it's bouncing off support around $34.50. I think that looks pretty good. The January expiration might be a little bit close, but it looks like they're kind of getting on the uptrend, and it looks like today they're doing pretty well. And if you're getting in and they start to rise this week, that'll be a pretty good entry. So yeah, I mean, I like it as long as they start to break out. But if you see them maybe fall below like $38 or possibly fall below the $40 support, then I'd get a little bit worried about them. But as long as they hold this, I think they might do pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad at all. IV's fine. Like you said, Tom, the only thing I'm slightly worried about is that expiration. I mean, but there are like 39 days left, but then again, that's it's calendar days, and I know with all the holidays coming up, we have New Year's and Christmas. There's definitely gonna be a couple non-trading days sprinkled in there. So maybe think about shifting to like the March expiration, or maybe if you're gonna go with the January expiration, get closer to the money. But I think the setup's fine. So good stuff there. And then Iranical is saying, I'm wondering about open interest on the QQQ February 18th of 2022. Do you think there's any reason for that? Let me take a look really quickly. So I'm going to head over to the QQQ. They said the February 18th expiration for 2022. Let me pull it up, the open interest. I mean, it looks pretty fine to me. I mean, it looks very, very normal. I'm not seeing anything out of the ordinary. It's a very liquid ETF. So not sure what you're seeing there, but how's the QQQ looking, Tom?
It's looking pretty good. I will say the recovery's been pretty decent. As far as the setup goes, though, it's going to be pretty tough the next couple days. We're right around this $400 resistance level, so I'm definitely going to throw that resistance on the chart really fast. But looking at it this week, I mean, this week's going to be a tough week. We have a lot of stuff going on. I think the QQQ looks pretty good to the upside, but we're going to have to break above $400. And I think it's going to take Powell, pumping up the market to make it happen, because it looks like we're selling off today a little bit. And I would maybe expect a little bit of a sell-off heading into Powell speaking. Powell speaking is generally a pretty big event, and he's going to be speaking around 2:30 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. So maybe expect some volatility till then. The SPY definitely started pulling back today like we thought, Mike. Same thing with the QQQ. So I would say be careful. There's a big resistance around 400. If we don't break out of that, we're probably going to start going down in the short term. So definitely watch it. And it's going to be huge with Powell, Mike. I actually have some of the stuff pulled up here. But I mean, man, like we can see that on trading economics, we're looking at this chart for the inflation, and they keep saying that if the inflation keeps getting higher, they're going to talk about raising rates. They're going to talk about, speeding up their tapering right now. And look at the way that these numbers have been coming in. We came in at 6.8%. Like these numbers are getting just astronomical. And they're actually saying it's the highest numbers since June of 1982. So I don't know, but I feel like the Feds are going to definitely talk about the inflation quite a bit. And, Powell's been making the market go up generally when he's been talking lately. And I'm wondering at some point when the market's going to start falling, when he starts making these, these comments about tapering and rising rates and stuff. He's been a good cheerleader so far, but I don't know if he can keep going, keep the market propped up for much longer.
Yeah, it's definitely tough, especially when you have inflation like that. But I know there's a lot of different points of view, so we'll see what happens. And then we have Sean saying, stay away from Donkey Horse. I'm down 5K on it this year. Yeah, it's been rough. I can't even imagine what some of these people are down on Donkey Horse, Tom, because I remember people had some, there was just so much confidence in this company last year, and, it was at $43 in February of 2021, and now it's at $5. So it's like, holy, it's crazy. And I believe they had that deal with Amazon, but I don't know what's going on with it now, but it's definitely looking pretty rough.
Yeah, it is. And, like you said, he's down $5,000. That's definitely a lot, but man, can you imagine? Like, I know people were buying thousands and thousands of shares like whenever it was at like $20, $25 and different price points like that. And with the way it's down now, man, like I just can't believe how much Workhorse has fallen. Hopefully they start to bounce here soon. They're at a pretty good price point, or a pretty good level at the $5 support. Hopefully that holds up. But man, I wouldn't bet on it at this point, man. This company's just been having some pretty bad movement to say the least. And yeah, I mean, I feel bad for you, Cornish. You're down 5 grand, but hey, it could have been a lot worse if you would have owned shares pretty high up there.
Yep. All right. So I'm looking at a couple different stocks today, Tom. Looks like Pfizer's having a pretty good day. Some of these call options are exploding for them, and the stock itself is up nearly 5%, which, I know that there was some good news with Pfizer in general, but it's pretty rare when you see a stock like Pfizer up 5% on the day where they're buying another company out for, what was it, $6.7 billion in cash. Because normally when we have these mergers and acquisitions, the company that's paying normally falls. And it just goes to show you that Pfizer's one powerful company.
Yeah, they are awesome lately, and this setup has been great as well. Like the way they came down in pre-market and confirmed off of $53, I think that was just like a grade A setup, like one of the better setups you could get in the market. And it was just such a great breakout to the upside too. Like you said, they had the good news, and generally, like you said, like when they buy a company, it goes down. So maybe they're just going up off the hype with their other news with the vaccines and everything. But their vaccine's supposed to protect against that new variant, so that's great news for him. I'm glad to see him going up. And man, Pfizer has just been a powerhouse this year. They have some big dips, of course, every once in a while, but they generally have been rocketing right back. And I'm just really glad to see him rocketing. And I'll be honest, I could see them hitting new highs at some point this week.
There we go. All right, and then we have Vicky saying inflation will go away when people stop buying 50 shoes, 50 shirts, 50 pants, and 50 everything to clutter their garages and apartments. And then she said, hit the like, guys. So, yeah, I mean, inflation has been crazy lately. There's definitely a lot of different data points to look at and all that stuff. But Wednesday should be interesting. I'm very curious on how Powell responds and what he has to say, especially when it comes to the tapering and maybe rising interest rates. But we'll see what happens. But awesome stuff. And if you guys like the stream, it would help us out so much if you could hit that like button. We really like doing these streams, and hitting the like button, it takes like 2 seconds, but it helps us out so much. So awesome stuff. Tom, are you seeing anything significant, any news, any stocks moving, anything?
Nothing too significant is this morning so far. I feel like the market's kind of awaiting Powell speaking on Wednesday. I feel like there's not going to be too much good stuff, but there is, there obviously we have Pfizer going. Lucid was really on my radar earlier in the morning, but they've just been pulling back all morning. They had that good news about being added into the NASDAQ, and I was expecting a little bit more of a pop out of them, but they are kind of consolidating today, so not too good a movement there. On my watch list, I actually have Moderna leading the way. They actually just popped above Pfizer. They're actually up 5.9%. Yeah, actually Moderna's popping up pretty nicely here, Mike. Hopefully they can start to get on the recovery themselves, and it seems like the vaccine stocks are, for some reason, doing very, very well today, especially Moderna up 5.8%. I wonder if they had some good news or something come out of it. I'm not seeing too much yet.
There we go. Tom, you can't forget about Apple. It's still going. I know it pulled back a little bit at open, but it is still going. We are just under 182.
Wow, I cannot believe they came back. Whenever they started selling off, I was thinking, man, we might see the SPY and Apple and a bunch of these stocks go down, but hey, they recovered right back. That's great to see. Hopefully they can get back up above 182. I think that's going to make for a pretty big intraday resistance right there, Mike. And definitely watching them. They've been a powerhouse over the past few days. And obviously they are a powerhouse, but over the past few days, they've had some crazy movement to the upside, making new highs. It's been such a great thing to see this company rising like this. And man, I'm waiting to see those articles saying that they're a $3 trillion company. It should be coming pretty soon.
Yeah, they are just under it. So I'm actually looking on Thinkorswim, and it looks like it's updating in real time on Thinkorswim, and it's saying that the current market cap is 2,981,400,000,000 So they're so close. So we'll see what happens, but it's definitely pretty exciting to see. We'll definitely keep Apple on the radar for the rest of the week. Looking at my watch list, I have Chewy leading the way. They're up like 6%, and I know they had a beatdown on Friday with their bad earnings, but they're getting really close to their pre-earnings level. On I think it was Wednesday of last week, they closed right around like 56.70, and they're getting pretty close, right to where they were right before earnings.
Yeah, they are, and I'll tell you, they were actually, well, as they're going down, they're starting to bounce off of some pretty major supports, and they were actually right around $50 even, which is generally a pretty big psychological level as well. And I'll tell you what, that they bounced off that $50 level tons of times in the past, and I would say it has a pretty good chance to hold up this time. Of course, they've been on a pretty bad downtrend, so definitely be careful. They might have a good chance to fall below 50, but I think that that's a pretty big support there. Looks like they're bouncing pretty well, and I think it's a pretty good price point. Honestly, for shares, I think it's a great price point. Even for calls, I feel like for the next few weeks, they have a pretty good chance to pop. And the thing that I really like about this play, Mike, is they're also coming off of that IV crush that they just had with earnings. So maybe if they start to go up and that IV starts to go back up, it can make for a pretty good combination there.
Yeah, it's not bad. Alrighty, so we basically covered all the stocks that are really moving. The only other one I really wanted to touch up on really quickly was Facebook, or now Meta. They are actually having a really good day, and they're up 3.5%.
Yeah, once they broke above that resistance around 335, I think they had a great setup going on, kind of like what we're seeing with Pfizer and a lot of other setups. A lot of them are starting to break out today, and it's making for some pretty good movement. And I'm definitely going to be waiting for some more stocks to start to break out, just like Facebook is. But man, I love that movement, Mike. And it looks like it made a little bit of a almost like a bullish flag here intraday, and it looks like it's starting to break out. It's obviously running up as I'm speaking on the 1 minute, looking very hot. And I'm really glad, on the 1 year daily, I'll be honest, I expected Facebook to do a little bit better once they made the announcements, and they kind of started to taper off to the downside. And I'm really glad to see them recovering. I'm really waiting for them to break above this main resistance up here around like 355. I think that's going to be huge over the next couple weeks.
Sounds good. All right. So, Tom, do you have any last-minute stocks, options, or anything you're watching for the rest of the week?
Man, I'm really going to keep my eyes on some of these chip stocks. We keep talking about a lot of these stocks going to the upside. I know, of course, everyone loves to hear stocks going up. I'm just really being careful with some of these hyped up stocks like AMD, Nvidia, anything that's like at all-time highs right now or really close. Just be really careful with it. Like these stocks have been on fire for the past few years, and it seems like investors are starting to take some profits on these and start to get into these safer stocks like Apple, Coca-Cola, and then maybe transitioning into some of these growth plays. But definitely be careful with them. I feel like if we see AMD start to break their support right around like 135, 134, it's going to make for a pretty big move to the downside, at least in the short term. So definitely eye it up. I feel like that if Powell makes the market fall, these tech stocks are going to be hit worse than a lot of other stocks. So definitely eye it up. Powell's going to have a huge impact on the market this week. Definitely be careful. He's speaking Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, and that's going to be the main thing I'm waiting for.
There we go. Well, thank you guys so much for watching today's stream. We have a lot going on in the market, and we're set for a huge week. So it should be very interesting. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and have an amazing rest of your day.